Welcome to the Inherent Identity Podcast, a place where you can learn the secrets to living as the best version of you. It's not about changing, it's not about becoming, it's about remembering. It's about recovering what you've always had within you, but you just keep getting distracted and you just keep forgetting. Join me, your host, Tyson Bradley, as we discover the practical steps for easily and effortlessly creating a lifestyle that lasts. Hello, everybody. So, I just usually, I don't know what it is, but I do like to just dive in because I've listened to plenty of podcasts and yeah, there's things about my personal life that I could share and I will share those things, but it's going to be in context of the message that I have. And so no need to, I guess, skip the introduction, which sometimes I've done. But some of you do care. You're like, what is going on in Tyson's life? Well, I'll let you know in the stories that I have to share today. Because today I wanted to talk about something that I learned this past week that was pretty awesome and just a lesson that was reinforced by Scripture. So I was reading in the Book of Mormon, and for those of you listening that maybe you haven't read the Book of Mormon or you're not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I will tell you that there's some neat stories in here, and I'm going to be telling you more of them, and you've already probably heard some of them that I've shared, but this story is a story of a man and a king named King Benjamin, and he had 3 sons, and in the first chapter of Mosiah, the book of Mosiah within the Book of Mormon, King Benjamin talks about how he taught his sons the language of their fathers and the importance of the scriptures that they had, which they kept their records on these like metal plates. And there's some verses within here that I just want to share with you, kind of word for word, that kind of share the message and the point that I want to share, as well as I'll add to it with some stories. But he said that my sons, I would that you should remember that were it not for these plates, which contain the records and commandments, we must have suffered in ignorance, even at this present time, not knowing the mysteries of God. For it's not possible that our father Lehi could have remembered all the things, to have taught them to his children, except it were for the help of these plates. So, in other words, he's just like, hey, if we didn't have these plates, if we didn't have a record, there's no possible way that our father, like our ancestor Lehi, the one that first received the commandment to leave Jerusalem and to go to this new promised land, there's no way that he would have been able to remember all the commandments of God, no way to remember all the things, all the prophecies, all those like scriptures and insights. There's no way he could remember them all. So it's so valuable that we have this written record. Now he says, I say unto you, my sons, were it not for these things, the records, which have been kept and preserved by the hand of God, that we might read and understand of his mysteries and have his commandments always before our eyes, that even our fathers would have dwindled in unbelief. And we should have been like our brethren, the Lamanites, who know nothing concerning these things, or even do not believe these things, do not believe them when they are taught them, because of the traditions of their fathers, which are not correct. And now, my sons, I would that you should remember to search them diligently, that you may profit thereby, and I would that you should keep the commandments of God, that you may prosper in the land according to the promises which the Lord hath made unto our fathers. So that's Mosiah chapter 1, pretty much 3 through 7, around there. So summarizing some of that stuff. But the point of this experience and what I want to highlight is that these records and these stories and these revelations, they were captured and etched into metal plating that could be preserved from generation to generation. It was handed down and handed down and handed down. And finally, it gets to King Benjamin and his sons, and King Benjamin is like, "Look, boys, these records are vital, because if we didn't have them, we wouldn't know of God's mysteries, and we also would have dwindled in unbelief. So we wouldn't believe in God in the same way that we do if we didn't have them. And when I read this, the thing that stood out to me was, yes, I love the scriptures and I think that they're so valuable and important. But the thing that I thought was maybe just as important was the written record that I have of all my conversations with God. That it's been over close to 2 years now that I have just been daily talking with God by writing my prayers out and writing them down. And I have so much that I could search. And when I read this past week and a half, I've been rereading some of the insights and things that I've already received. And that's what's been so powerful is as I reflect back on the things that I've already received, what I'm finding is that there are some commandments that I have yet to keep or that I have not fully fulfilled and that I want to fulfill. Because much of what God has told me are really just things that I want to do, but have yet to do them. And so a good example of this, and I'll just read a kind of an insight that I keep before my eyes, because that's the thing. He says, keeping things continually before our eyes. I want you to just like imagine how much more progress you'd have in your life if the things that you wanted to do was just continually before your eyes. It's almost as if there was just this constant reminder of do this thing. Have you done this thing? Do this thing. And so just the power of repetition. We know that repetition is, I think the quote is repetition is the mother of all learning. And there's good reason to that because it helps it to stick, in our heads. But one of the things that I looked back on was just my desire to teach my kids and teach my kids some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've been practicing, and as I reflected, I just kind of summarized the things I wanted to teach my kids, things like noticing the Spirit, learning from pain and being able to empathize with them. And then I had an additional insight of practicing what we call a do-over. And this comes from Brooke Snow, but she talks about this idea of at the end of the night, reflecting on the day of part of the day that maybe didn't go as well or you didn't show up as well, and then doing it over, visualizing yourself doing it well. And I was just thinking, man, that's something that I could do with my girls at the end of the night. And so I kind of have this page that's dog-eared in my journal that is pretty much a list of the things that I wanted to keep continually before my eyes until it becomes a reality. Because I know that the more that I just bring this back up to mind, I will eventually do it. And even if it's a slow going kind of thing, at least there's a revisiting, at least there's a reflecting, at least there's a continually coming back and continually bringing these things back before my eyes so that I can keep God's commands to me. And not just, and sometimes I think not just thinking, okay, it's God's commandments. I also think it's the godliness within me that is inviting me and commanding me and saying, hey, do this thing. So there's this Spirit that's inside me that's just connected to God, connected to godliness, and it keeps inviting me to teach my kids. And that's who I am. That's what I want. That's part of being me on this planet. And so I'm finding and discovering and uncovering all the ways in which I want to do this. Because I know that if I can teach them, if I could teach them how to really pray, it's going to be so amazing for them that they can, or at least teach them how to really receive insight, revelation, guidance, to listen to the Spirit. If I had this when I was, 8 years old and I could listen to the Spirit and follow it, how much more of a benefit would that have been to my life? So, you know, if any of you care, if you're listening to this, then you care about your kids, you care about your family, and you probably want something similar to be able to teach them how to listen and how to learn. And so, if they're older kids, you might invite them. You might say, "Hey, check out this podcast." You might say, "Hey, check out inherentidentity.com." And if they're not older, you might just, come to inherentidentity.com, come to the Inherent Identity family, learn these skills for yourself so that you can then teach them to your kids and experience that benefit and help them as well. So one thing that I wanted to kind of highlight is that recently and this kind of goes to the personal thing, I like playing games for exercise. So by games, I mean like racquetball or ping pong or pickleball. I just like playing the sport for my exercise. And so it's been an ideal of mine to be able to have that. And instead of, I was just considering all the options that I could have in order to make this a reality. And then it dawned on me, hey, you know what? What if at our church building, they've got a gym and they even have lines painted as part of the floor for a pickleball court. And so 2 months ago or so, I started my investigation and I started messaging the people that would be, overseeing this kind of sport and overseeing that kind of experience for the stake and for our area. And so as I started digging in and reaching out to people, I found out that, oh my goodness, we do have pickleball nets and they're available and we could set them up and we could play. And so I was like, sweet, okay, now all I need is a key to the building. Because if I had a key and then I had another person, then I could play. And I know of a few people, so I had some people, but then all I needed was a key to be able to get in when I wanted to get in. And so I messaged all the people, and I just keep revisiting this desire of mine every single week. And I'll tell you, it's so fascinating because when you keep something continually before your eyes, because here's what ended up happening. Every time that I would, come to this point of, I really want this. This is like a heart's desire, this heart yearning. I would do things I have never done ever. Things like email the top leader, like this, like I messaged the stakes sports specialist. That's kind of the guy that's supposed to be over the things. And I messaged him multiple times and he's like, yes, we're working on it. We're working on it. I was like, come on, man, let's do this. And then I messaged my bishop. And I was like, hey, like, I want to make this happen. I can help make this happen. Do you have an extra key? He's like, I think we might have a spare key. Oh, actually, we don't have a spare key. So you're gonna have to wait. And the stake is doing all this stuff. And then I talked to the stake leadership and I said, hey, I talked to the top level guy. I said, hey, listen, I want to make this happen, but I'm limited. And if it's possible that I could get a key, I could make this happen tomorrow. That's how gung ho I am about this. It's like, I love this. I think it would be awesome for everybody involved. Think about the unity and the things that would happen in the stake. Just trying to make things move, doing things I've never done before, and being somewhat bold, but it moved things along. And sure enough, guess what's happening this Thursday night? They're having pickleball for the very first time. And I bet you $1 million it's because I kept this continually before their eyes. There's no doubt in my mind that I influenced this. And so it's like you keep things continually before someone else's eyes, and all of a sudden we've got some movement, right? And the same thing goes for ourselves. So another example is I've had some resistance to, and I've shared a little bits and pieces of this, but kind of like I'll finish the story, help complete the story a little bit. But I've had some of my own resistance to my own personal calling right now in my church, in my ward. And my calling is simply to set up interviews for leadership to meet with the different brothers in the ward. in the congregation. And so I've never really enjoyed that kind of work, secretarial type things and setting up appointments, but I do it. And as I've been like talking with God about this, as I keep bringing it up, as I keep it before my eyes, and talking through it with the Lord, what has ended up happening is that now I've set up lunches and different ways of getting to know and connect with the different brothers in my ward. And I've already had a lunch with one. I'm having a lunch tomorrow, and I'm going to be going to the temple with another. And it's like, what in the world is happening? This is something I've never done ever in any of my other wards ever. Like ever. And I just want to highlight what happens when you start listening to your heart, and not just listening to your heart, but honoring it. Because here's the thing, and this kind of goes to what we're creating with the Inherent Identity family. It's that God does not want to just make you better. He's not here to just say, okay, let's improve a little bit at a time. Let's just make some good adjustments so that you're a little happier, and so that you're keeping the commandments and whatnot. No, what the communication, the way in which God does this is that he says, I want to make you new. I want to make you an entirely new creature, unrecognizable, totally different. I want you to kill the old self, and I want to bring you into a newness of life. That is more the communication that God has. And as I've thought about that, and as I reflect, even on the couple of scenarios that I've already given you, it's just like, these are things I've never done ever. And ways of being that I've never been. And I even think about my nightly routines. I think about the way I eat. I think about just all the things that I'm doing that I've never done before, and that I am now walking in a newness of life. And it keeps happening. It's like I keep evolving faster than I've ever evolved and improved in the past. And this is what we're creating within the Inherent Identity family. It's not about improving yourself. It's about remembering who you really are and walking in that newness of life. It's walking in the new way of living that you just keep forgetting is available to you and could actually easily come about. That this actually doesn't have to be difficult. Change doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to require a lot of effort, work, because when we start partnering with Christ, he makes things easy and effortless. He helps gives us rest. And so my offer to all of you is to just consider the ways in which you are receiving revelation, for one, because at the start of this, it's like, first, we have to have a method in which we are capturing down the revelation. We have to be writing our insights down. Otherwise, they're not captured. Your brain cannot store it. It's not designed to store information. It's designed to process it. So unless we have a way of capturing this insight and this revelation and your conversations with God, you will not have anything to reflect back on. I promise you that. It just won't happen. Okay, so we have to first establish the writing. We have to first establish you connecting with God in a new way. And then as you do that, and as you start having conversations, and if you need help with this, like, join the Inherent Identity family for 2 weeks. And, I will say that we're not always going to have this Inherent Identity family like open and available for you to join immediately. And so, if you've been on the fence or whatnot, it's like, I just want to invite you to join now, just because we do have plans of like shutting it down and then opening it up, later, but we don't know when later is. And so I just invite you to join now and to check it out at inherentidentity.com while you still can, because I want you to be able to learn the skill. And then, once you learn this skill, then it's about, okay, how can I continually keep this before my eyes? And that's part of the process, part of the thing that we're like revamping and we're just updating. We're continually updating, continually making things better within the program, and with all the, the exercises and the trainings and the calls, everything geared around helping you to live into who you really are, to reclaim your inherent identity, to get in touch with that godliness that's within you, and then to use that godliness to just become someone new, become who you really are, who you've always wanted to be. And that's kind of the process that we're walking through here. So, you record, you keep things continually before your eyes, you keep revising and learning and evolving and refining who you are in the process. And then all of a sudden you walk into a newness of life. You become someone new. And that's the transformation that is available. That is what we're all about. That is the skill in which we are building here. So if that interests you, and if you are ready to kind of jump into this, or maybe you're just like, man, I want to learn these skills and then I want to be able to teach my kids, then let's go. Then let's dive in and let's practice this. So that's my invitation to you all. I hope that helps you here and now. And obviously, if there is any questions that you have, you can always reach out to me at tyson@inherentidentity.com. Other than that, have an amazing day. We'll talk to you later. Hey, do you want to create your best life? Do you want to live into it? If that's you, I want you to come and check out inherentidentity.com. This is the place where you get to learn the easy and effortless way to living into your dreams. So once again, come check out inherentidentity.com. We'll see you there.